Royce the 5'9". Thank you for sitting down with the people of Ambrosia for Heads and AFH TV. We appreciate you, man.
My brother, it is an honor and a privilege to be here.
Well, congratulations on the Allegory.
Thank you.
I'd be remiss if I didn't call it the best album that's come out in the last year. It's my favorite body of work from you, and it is a statement album.
Thank you.
On the Allegory and in conversation, you seem very deliberate about calling music art. Not content, not tracks or projects. I like that. Where does that idea, where does that thought come from?
I've always viewed it that way. I think it's a lot. Wow, that's a good question. I mean, I don't know if there's a reason why. I just always have. I've always viewed it as art. I always look at it like, and this is probably the reason why I'm never seeking validation, or I'm never like upset when somebody doesn't like something. I just look at it like just putting paint on the canvas, splashing paint on the canvas and hanging it up. That's how I look at it. And not only do I hang it up, but I hang it up and I just walk away, you know. And I kind of look at it like I put my all into it. I put everything that I can into it. And then upon completion is when I get my fulfillment. The completion is what makes me feel fulfilled.
Yeah.
And then when I give it to you, it's yours. That's it. It's yours. You can do whatever you want with it. However you treat it is up to you, and however you feel about it, I'm okay with that. You know what I mean? And I know that there'll be other projects, and Van Gogh made things. Some of it is priceless, some of it we'll never see.
Yeah.
It's just part of it. You know what I mean? I just look at it like it's just a new testament to wherever I am mentally. It's just indicative of where I am in life. Each piece of art is just indicative of where I am at that time.
So to use your analogy, how did you know on this album, which you produced, you orchestrated? I don't think production is quite, I think that's an understatement to what this album is. How did you know when the paint was dry? How did you know when to walk away?
There's a feeling. There's a feeling that I get, man. It's like, I don't know if it's some type of divine thing or it's just something. I just know, and I keep recording until I feel like that. I know I always look for a complete thought. After listening to it from top to bottom, I need to feel like there's a complete thought, there's a complete point being driven home, or points, or just, in this case, a whole lot of scatterbrained things creating things. You know what I mean? Like, and I think all of us as artists are more instinctive than anything.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I think we all had those instincts where we just kind of know, man. It's like we just kind of, we know when it's right to us. We know when it's not right. We've done that thing where we went against our better judgment and paid the price for it. That's a part of it too. That's a part of the learning process. And I just been trusting my instincts a lot more lately. You know what I mean? And it's easier to when you trust your instincts. It's easier to accept if something doesn't work or something just you don't hit your target. It's okay to not hit your mark. You know what I mean? No problem. But when you're using your instincts and you don't hit your mark, it's easier to deal with than you following like a whole boardroom full of people's advice.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like people who never wrote records before, who are probably fairly educated, but it's the difference between being smart and knowing music, knowing how to make records, and knowing art. It's a difference.
For sure. Now, you've said to me, and you've said in some of your other recent conversations, this is the first album that happened to you. You started creating the music. Was there a specific song, now that we hold the album or get to look at the canvas, that started the idea or shows where the journey began for you with the Allegory?
Nope. That's the crazy part, because I was down a rabbit hole, a beat making rabbit hole, and I Don't Age was the first song that I wrote and recorded a rap to. But when I did that song, I wasn't making an album in my mind yet. So I Don't Age was supposed to just be clay. You know what I mean? It was supposed to just be clay. That's it. And one thing led to another. It really started when I got a couple songs done, and I agreed to do an EP. I agreed to do an EP, like 3 or 4 songs, and I didn't have a 3 or 4 song variation that I could look at and listen to and say, this is a complete thought, or this feels like a small body of work. So in my crazy mind, like the only way to improve upon that, or the only way to rectify that, is to add to it. So I was just adding to it, skit wise. I was adding to songs, to adding little pieces to it, just to try to figure it out. One thing led to another. I got like 9 songs. So at that moment, I'm like, fuck, what am I gonna do? So Keno came in town and listened to it and said, yo, why don't you just make this album? So here's the problem with that. Number one, I produced these songs. And if I'm gonna make an album, I'm gonna need to add a few things to it. But if I add a few things to it, I might as well produce it, because I'm just about there.
Yeah.
If I make an announcement that I'm producing with this album, and I'm doing most of it and not all of it, that's gonna seem weird. You know, I might as well just do all of it. You know what I'm saying? Like, I might as well just announce it, and just announce that I'm producing the whole thing, and win, lose, or draw. It's a shot. You know what I mean? It's a shot. It's a shot in the dark, nonetheless, but it's a shot. So now that's when it was pressure.
Yeah.
After I told myself I'm gonna finish it off, and I'm gonna produce the rest of it. Now I'm producing songs. I gotta find the right beats. I gotta find the right couple beats, and I gotta find the right songs to those beats. It was hard. It was hard. It took me a minute. Because now I'm in the mind frame that I'm doing the album, and that's when you put all the pressure on yourself.
Is this the most focused you've ever been at sequencing and revising and molding the clay of an album that you've done?
Yeah. I mean, I've always did the arranging, but yeah, it's the most focused I've been. I just feel like I learned something from. Pardon me for yawning. I hate getting up early. I just feel like I learned something from each project.
Yeah.
Each project, I walk away from it a little more knowledgeable. And then after I release the project, I always study, do my due diligence. You know, like a lot of artists kind of like veer away from like reading the comments and shit like that. I love it, man.
Yeah.
I love reading the comments. It's fun. You know what I'm saying? It's fun.
Well, you're a very self-aware. I'm not self-aware. You're a very observant hip-hop artist. One of the things I love on this album are the references to Dame, talking to Kevin Lyles, or, even your Tekashi video, which was phenomenally articulate in what it was really trying to say, I think. How much are you inspired just by the things that you consume on a day-to-day basis, maybe online or reading a magazine or having a conversation, so to speak?
I can get inspired by anything.
Yeah.
I love just taking in information. I'm really intrigued by perspective these days. Like 2 people could be looking at the same thing and be seeing 2 totally different things.
Sure.
And each thing being their respective truths based off the way that they see it. I'm intrigued by that like crazy. So, and just pretty much anything that I take in. Like my youngest son, my 13-year-old son with autism. He's at the studio with me the last couple of days right before I left. He stayed there with me for like 3 days in a row. And just like, I was inspired by him, man, because Mr. Porter got a video game in his B room, and the guys couldn't figure out how to download certain games to it. He went in there and figured it right out. Yeah. I couldn't even turn the damn thing on. Like, I tried to turn it on and let somebody play it before, and I couldn't figure it out. They couldn't figure it out. He went right in there. Whatever. I don't know what he did. He downloaded games we hadn't seen before. I was like, wow. And then I checked my email the other day. My email is now his name, so he somehow hacked into my email because it's connected to the YouTube. It's just Now when I email people, they like, I didn't get the email. I'm like, I sent it to you. They like, but it says 8. You Aiden Roblox player? Right. Aiden Roblox player? I'm like, yeah, that's my son.
So you mentioned I Don't Age, and I love that record. We got to hear it before the album, and I know it's a line within the song, but it's a novel concept. Like, your art doesn't age. I think, physically you look younger than you did 15 years ago. Tell me about just that idea behind that song. I mean, was it you just clearing the plate when you were saying like making clay in the studio?
Yeah, it was. That was the very first beat that I made that I wrote to. So, but prior to that, I had made hundreds of beats.
Wow.
That was the first one that I made where I was like, okay, I like this one. I'm gonna see if I can come up with something to this one. And I just started writing to it. And I just cut what I had, and it was just, I didn't have no clear vision or any, and I love creating like that because there's no repercussion in your mind. There's nothing bad that can happen. Like, I didn't plan on playing it for anybody, so it didn't matter. You know what I mean? Like, it didn't matter how it came out. And I think that's the place mentally the artist should want to go to when they're creating. Not worrying about how anybody feels. Not understanding that nobody's gonna come remove you. Nobody's gonna come fire you. This is not like a job where you work. A lot of people feel like that all of us work for the people. Like, we're not employees of the people.
Right.
Not all of us. Some artists are vessels for the people. Like I just feel like I'm not Walmart. You know what I mean? I'm the little boutique on the corner. Everything in there is exclusive. You know what I mean? Like, for all intents purposes, it's maybe a little overpriced, but it's quality. It's quality. It's genuine.
Quality over quantity. That's what you say on the pendulum.
Yeah. So I'm not a pack of T-shirts at 3 a.m. on the side of the highway. You know what I'm saying? So I just look at it like that. It's not it's not standing at the register and have it your way. Customer's always right. No. This is. I would rather know what I want to do. I would rather know what I want. Know exactly. Have a vision in my mind of how I think I want it to sound, and then just try to execute that, and then hand it over, and it's like, hopefully you like this.
Yeah.
Because if you do, that's great. That lets me know that I'm doing something right, because, man, I appreciate the fact that there are some people that's still interested in things that I got to say, man. That's a luxury. You know what I mean? Like, that's not to be taken lightly. That's not to be taken for granted. That's the whole concept behind wearing the suit. It's to show my gratitude. It's an honor and a privilege to do every single media outlet. I was having a conversation with my son, and he did a show at this club called the L Club, and there were like 200 kids in there. He was like, yeah, I know we didn't sell it out. I'm like, what? I'm like, man, do you know how difficult it is to get 200 people to stop what they're doing and go stand in front of a stage and stare at you
and pay money
for an hour? Yeah. Yo, bro, I think people take that for granted because the marketing dollars are being spent to market to you. Oh yeah, sell out. I sold it. Sell out crowd tonight at the such and such. Sell out, and then people are so hung up on numbers that now they think that that's the only thing that's successful. Mm-hmm. If it's not that, it's not successful, and that's wrong. You have to start from somewhere. It's a building process, and you have to take into consideration how valuable that is, man. Like, what the fuck is the last show you went to? You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like, I am a Jay-Z stan, and I don't really have much of a desire to go to any of his shows.
Right.
So the fact that people are willing to do that, that's not to be taken lightly, man.
I'm a big believer that we can speak things into the universe, and the universe speaks back. I noticed the ring, which is a beautiful piece of jewelry, by the way. On I Don't Age, you say, you are what you eat, and I never ate goat. How important was it for you the first time you put that in the universe? Like, I am the greatest alive, greatest of all time.
Well, I thought it was a pretty snazzy punchline, I don't think that there is one. I don't think that's possible.
One GOAT, you mean?
Yeah. I don't think that's possible. I think it has to be a little bit more perspective put on it. It's okay to generalize it in a punchline, but you know, yeah, how you doing? If we're speaking truths,
Jason.
thank you. There's a certain level of respect that I have for like the generation before me and the OGs that have paved the way for me. I can never say I'm better than Jay-Z. Never say I'm better than Eminem, Nas, Big Daddy Kane, Rakim, KRS-One. I just feel like there's a certain level of respect that they deserve. I also feel like you should think the world of yourself as an MC. You know what I mean? And I think the two can go hand in hand. It's just a certain way it has to be done. You know, so you can represent the greats. You can represent the greats. You know, and you just got to understand there is no one. You know, like even Michael Jordan, I think the world of Michael Jordan. There's Kobe, there's LeBron, but it's Michael Jordan. You know what I mean? So like a lot of times I give Michael Jordan that carte blanche because he came first. It's not Kobe's fault when he was born. Kobe took it somewhere else. You know what I mean? But Jordan came first. So you can't discredit Jordan. You know what I mean? So when it comes to just putting the words together, I think in my mind, mentally, it's time for me to start placing myself in the same conversation with the people who I admire and who I have an undying loyalty and respect for, you know?
Back after a brief intermission with Royce the 5'9", mentorship is massive on the Allegory. I like the fact that you take time to acknowledge Ice-T and Ice Cube for making a way for you today, but you also mentor, you have an audience of kind of the new generation. When did you realize that you had a message and we're tailoring so much of your lyrics as jewels to your peers, your younger peers?
I didn't realize it until toward the end. I was like, wow. You know, like a lot of things that I said just kind of came out. And that's when I realized, I was like, yo, okay, this is really informative. It's informative in a lot of ways. But everything just came out in a scatterbrained way. And like around that time that I was working on the album, and still to this day, like it's always youngins up there, and I'm constantly preaching. I'm always preaching. And a lot of the things that I was preaching just kind of came across in the music. You know, like if you're running your mouth about something all day, then, you know, after everybody leave at night and the beat is playing and I'm writing, some of those thoughts are going to show up in the song.
So like the private conversations went public?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. The same thing happened with the perspective skit with Marshall. Private conversation. Next thing you know, boom. I asked him if I sent him a beat, can he talk over it and kind of re-say some of the shit that he said to me? We were having a conversation. He was like, I don't remember exactly what I said, but I can give it a shot.
Yeah.
And it just sort of happened like that.
You know, when you're sitting in heaven, at the end of his life, Thelonious Monk was recording everything. And his discussions with people, since you're in the studio, I know a lot of producers do that. Do you record some of the conversations you tend to have as when you talk about inspiration from everything?
The only time I've ever thought to do that is I was working on the bar exam 4, and I remember we were just sitting around having lots of conversations, and I was like, yo, some of this needs to get used, you know, to shape the narrative for this. So I started kind of recording and made sure that I just kept the mic recording, just kept it on at all times. But a lot of times, man, like the candid conversations, they get lost. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's been plenty of moments where it's been like, yo, everything we just talked about, somebody should have been recording that. Like, it should have been a camera in here or something like that. And the times that I, hire videographers, man, for whatever reason, I can't get them to work on my schedule. You know what I mean? Like, I burn them out. You know what I mean? Like, so by the time they're ready to go home and they get in their car and they leave, that's when all the jewels start flying.
Yeah.
It's like, damn it. It's like, and I think it's just Heaven Studios. It's just like a night. It's something about the night. Something about the night. Like, it's something about between the hours of maybe 2 and 7.
Okay.
Where that's where all my long, deep phone calls happen. Like, it's something about those hours, man. Those are just the lightning hours of the studio.
You named the studio that. You named your record company that. What is the significance of Heaven to you?
Well, when I first walked in and seen the space, some of it was built out already, and I initially had another space that I was thinking about doing a lease, and I was just about to close on it, and my brother, Mr. Porter, was like, text me and said, God told me to tell you not to look at that space and to come look at this space. I'm like, where's it at? He gave me the address. I come pulling up, I walk in. I said, bro, this is like heaven in here. You know what I mean? And I just ended up calling it that.
You mentioned, you call Mr. Porter your brother. Kid Vicious has one of the best verses of his career on this album. You've been working together for years. That is your younger brother. Tell me how some of the ways you've mentored him, is that applying to what you're saying to other artists on the album?
Yeah, I mean, I preached all of them the same. Obviously, it might be a little different with Vish because he's a little further along in his career than some of the other guys that I speak to. But yeah, I mean, nobody's exempt. My son comes in, I'm like, sit down, let me tell you. Let me be an old man and tell you. Like, I love preaching.
The feature verses, and his is a testament to that, are so strong on this album. I mean, and I'm curious to know, were you playing, once it started coming together, were you playing the sum of the parts for Vince Staples, for a G Perico, Oswin, when they were coming in? Because everybody gave you their absolute best, which is rare these days.
Yeah, I sent them the song. I like sending the song at least with a verse on it, just to send them in a direction.
But were they hearing the other songs of the album or no?
Oh, no.
Okay.
No. Those guys are just, man, they're just super talented, man. And you know what I think is happening too? I think all of us as artists, I think we're adjusting to having to be. Usually we're in the position of where we have to like fly verses back and forth.
Yeah.
I think we're kind of getting used to it. We're adjusting to it, and we're becoming a little bit better at it. So the songs don't sound so disentangled. Yeah. You know what I mean? And we know when it's right. You know what I mean? Like, if somebody send me something and it won't work, I won't use it, or I'll try and get a different verse from them. I haven't had that problem.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, and it's something about this album, man, where everything just is falling in place. It's a really good Karma album.
Yeah, I believe that. And I remember working Street Team when you were working with Willa Ford and on Columbia in that era with the Rhinestone Do-Rag. So to hear this song and tell the audience to Google it was remarkable. Obviously, attire aside, what piece of advice would you like to go back 20 years and give yourself that now you've acquired and are giving others?
Just be patient. That's it. Because I honestly wouldn't have did anything different. And there's a certain value and gold, silver lining in me not knowing a lot of things. Because that's where I learned my most valuable lessons. That's how I became wise, making mistakes. You know, so too much advice may have put me on a different path. So the only thing about my journey is sometimes it felt like I wasn't gonna end up here.
Yeah.
So I just would have told myself, just be patient.
You've in our last conversation leading up to this album, you spoke a lot about accountability, especially to allies, which I include myself in hip hop with that. What does that look like to you? How can how do we hold people accountable, and how can people that love this art and culture be more accountable to the artist?
I think that's a situation by situation thing, you know, and in the moment is the best time, I'd say. You know, educate ourselves enough to know when we need to hold somebody accountable, and live in the center of our truths enough to where we can be held accountable for anything we say, and we can live up to anything we say because it's the truth.
Yeah.
You know, and that's pretty much, I operate under that. That's like an edict that I operate under, you know what I mean? Like it's my way of life, you know what I mean? Hold people accountable, educate our kids enough to where they understand when they need to be holding somebody accountable, and just do it in the moment, you know, and whoever we really are is gonna show, always.
The Allegory has remarkable skits and interludes. Some of it is, I think, original. You know, there's a lot of you talking to the audience, which is something I always like from Killer Mike, you know, apart from verse. There's clips, and there's also, you know, the Grace skits. Where did that fit into the process of the album? Because I think it really dims the lights and sets the tone for everything that's coming with it musically.
The Derek Grace skits came early. I knew I was a fan of those skits for a long time. I used to just sit and watch them all the time. And it's just compelling, man. Super compelling. So I decided to put music behind them and see how it would sound. And I got it sounding right. Sonically, I got it sounding right. So I decided to reach out to him and just, you know, ask him, was it okay to use it? And also thank him. Thank him for inspiring me, for looking for those teachable moments with my kids. You know, a lot of times, you know, we get taught the way our parents was, it was more of a discipline thing. So it's like, I got told when I did something wrong, and I didn't do something right, but it wasn't that often that I remember just getting taught some shit, when discipline didn't have anything to do with it. So I think as a parent, it's important to look for those moments, and I think he definitely inspired me to look for those moments. So I thank him for that. And it was early on in the process.
You end the album with Hero, and I believe that song relates to cocaine. I mean, both songs are about your father. Did you feel, in a way, it sounds like a correction? Did you feel that people got cocaine wrong? And when I say people, I mean the listeners.
Yeah, I felt like some of them did. I feel like maybe not necessarily just cocaine per se, but anytime I reference my dad on the album, you know, I think the overall, it wasn't the general consensus, but I think that some people took it as there was some type of bad blood between me and my dad, or my dad was like a super, you know, crazy abuse. You know what I'm saying? It's just, and I attribute that to them being used to rappers just being in dark places. You know what I mean? Like, they're used to rappers just throwing their family under the bus and just talking about only the bad stuff. Book of Ryan wasn't a dark album. Death is Certain was a dark album. Book of Ryan was me being happy.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, actually the opposite. You know what I'm saying? So like, and it kind of showed. You know, my dad made a couple comments, not to me, but I heard about a couple comments that he made, and I just felt like clarification was necessary.
What did it feel like to give him the gift now of Hero? Have you, I mean, it might be personal, but have you gotten any response from him on this record?
I haven't spoke to him yet, but I've been on the road since the album came out.
Yeah.
So soon.
It's a beautiful companion set of songs.
It's a good thing to come home to.
Yeah.
I'm sure our next conversation will be great.
My final question for you, Royce, is, you know, this album is something that I feel like will be a hallmark in hip-hop. You know, a lot of the things that you're talking about are bigger discussions in terms of ownership, black excellence, a host of other, you know, topics we can go through. That being said, what does success look like for you with this? Is it your message being received? Is it traditional trophies and accolades? Or is it a greater acknowledgement of each other?
Just peace.
Peace.
Peace of mind, freedom, creative freedom. I need to be able to speak my mind freely, without anybody telling me what I can and can't talk about, or what they are uncomfortable with hearing me talk about. And peace, man, I can't stress enough how important peace is for me. You know, I hate when it's negativity looming. Like I call it the gray area. I hate the gray area. I don't deal well in that. It gives me high levels of anxiety. And anything that disturbs my peace serves as a distraction. And distractions take you away from the art. It takes your mind to different places that they shouldn't be when you should be focusing on the art. And you know, the art is something that's needed for me in life. It's a coping mechanism. It's a form of expression, and I've learned a lot about myself through the art. You know what I mean? So that's basically all I need, you know, like, and you know, the whole family, the way my family shit is set up and all of that. As long as I'm at peace and I keep that in order, and when I go to the studio, none of that is disrupted, I can focus, man, I feel like I can move a mountain, you know. But when that's in disarray, I can't really lend the attention to the art that I need to in order to be able to make something that's gonna cut through the noise, you know, because it's just noise, you know what I'm saying? So it's just peace, and I just feel like everything else comes it's like a byproduct of everything I just said. The fame, the money, and all of that, it just comes with it, but it's not important at all, you know. Like, so that's it, just peace and freedom.
Royce, thank you so much for taking the time to talk to Ambrosia for Heads. Congratulations on the Allegory.
My brother, thank you.